Today, let's reinterpret a Renaissance-inspired painting in a more modern symbolist style. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I have already presented you with the idea for my most recent painting in my latest video that I will link in the description box down below, and will try to link up here as well for those of you who maybe did not see it. As already mentioned, I've based my new concept on a painting that I recently discovered by a Renaissance painter of the god Mercury that I'm going to reinterpret as a Pictish warrior in the Scottish Highlands. What I'm taking from my source of inspiration is of course the unusual panoramic format for a portrait painting, as well as the overall composition, let's say, with the focus on the human figure filling out most of the frame and a beautiful landscape in the backdrop. I had several requests under my longer format videos to continue doing them, and although I regret that these types of videos do not seem to perform as well as I would like, and as well as the shorter versions, I do believe that the few of you who watch them really enjoy them, so I will do my best to keep doing them. So this will be one of these formats where you will see me paint in real time and comment on everything that I will be doing. So how I pick my different brushes, what brush techniques I use when there's something particular to say about that, and what colors I use in order to obtain the effect that I want. Maybe a last thing that I wanted to comment on before we jump into the painting process will be the style. As I mentioned in the introduction, the idea for the composition and the overall style of the figure present in the painting will be Renaissance inspired. Nevertheless, I would like for the background to be more close to something that I would do style-wise for my usual landscape painting, so something that is fairly more symbolist maybe, and maybe 19th century inspired, so strong colors that sculpt a landscape without representing it in the most traditional, believable and realistic ways. So you get a feeling of a place rather than its accurate photographic representation. This is exactly what we will be doing. This is why I'm talking about reinterpreting a Renaissance painting, because we will have a figure that is rather Renaissance or traditional painting inspired in the foreground, but the background will be this more stylized version. I hope you will like how those two will work together, and today we will be in the early stages of the painting, so the first and second layer of colors. Now let's get to it. As you can see, due to its very particular format, this will be a bit more difficult for me to film. Basically, YouTube being a landscape format, and here we have a vertical panorama format. So I will be filling up the frame with myself here, although I'm not the object of interest. So I hope that you're still able to see everything that you need to see on the canvas as I go along. And if that's not the case, and I see that in editing, I will try to zoom in so that you guys can see everything you need to see all of the time. As you can see, I've already done the underpainting, and now I just suggest that we start at the top and work ourselves down to the bottom. So starting out with the sky, I always start with the darkest color. So in this case, I will need it to go a little bit darker than what we can see in my sketch. I think I will mix royal blue together with some turquoise. We'll see, we have a fairly neutral color which has both warm and cool undertones in it. That's why I've gone to the extremes of the spectrum with the King's Blue Deep that has a lot of red in it, or a lot of purple in it, and turquoise being very green tinted. Let's see. I believe that this mixture is not bad to start with. Let's go with it. Maybe pick up a little bit more paint. While I'm still on the blue hues here, I will go into the mountains because I do want to establish a uniform look. I need to tie the different colors that are present throughout the painting together nicely. So I'm cleaning my brush obviously, but I'm sticking with the same one, and I'm mixing the pre-existing colors together in order to create some harmony and coherence throughout. Maybe let's mix ocean blue together with cool gray. This looks very good. I believe that this is exactly the color that I need for the mountain range here. And don't worry, I know that the sky should appear much, much brighter than the mountain right now, but as in oils, we are starting with the darkest color and are going in progressively lighter and lighter. I will brighten the sky, and this will be all good. I'm going a little further with the blue than I need to go because we have some transitional areas where the green and the blues meet. So I'm pulling down the blues far enough in order to be mixed in with the greens. I have a slightly darker color here, darker blue, so go in with more cool gray, maybe something like this, and we have one little streak here. All right, now I go over the other side. So this side of the mountain is a mix between blues and greens. So once again, I'm laying down the blues, those beautiful dark blues, and I will go over with the greens later on. Now we are finished with this mountain range and we need to go down into the different lochs. This is pretty much the same color here, so I'm picking up the exact same mixture between my ocean blue and the cool gray. I'm picking up maybe a little more ocean blue here because I really want the lochs to stand out. We'll have her hair here, but in order to leave me some wiggle room for where her hair needs to go, I decide to not follow my digital sketch religiously and put down the loch in a way that it covers a larger area than initially planned, because I will then see where her hair can go. I don't need to fill in the space between the hair with the blue. I don't like doing this. I know there are painters who like painting in between spaces. I prefer always to lay down the bigger areas in the painting and then paint over it with the details. This is just how I personally operate. Now let's move down to the loch here. We go with the darkest color first, of course. Let's see. And here once again I will also cover the her lens. I can still see it through, so this shouldn't be a huge problem for me. Okay. And now here. Right. Now we need to pick up some indigo. For here. I'm feathering out the color, so as you can see it is a fairly thick layer here on the borders where I want the paint to really stand out, and then I'm, with the rest of paint that I still have on the brush, I'm feathering them out because I do want to have this very semi-transparent look towards the borders of the painting. Nearly a watercolor effect here, and back into the indigo and laying down the darkest color in the corner of the cliff here where the shadows would lie. Not too much though. Right. I might want to go back into our middle blues here to smooth everything out further. Okay. And maybe dip our toe into a little bit of King's Blue Deep and start to clean out here. And brighten all this out. Maybe here a little bit as well. We can do the exact same thing here. This has a little bit of a purplish undertone here, and I did put in a little bit of a outline in the original digital drawing, so I'm reproducing it here just ever so slightly, feathering it out, and here as well. See, yes, there we go. I think we can stop with the blues now and start our first layer of greens. Once again, I'm switching over to the large flat brush, and what I will do for the greens to pick out the right color is the one that is in between the darkest and the one that covers up most of the area. So I believe the best choice here would be golden green. Was it too light? Let's put it somewhere in small amounts. This is good. This is good. We are sticking with golden green. I thought about going into green umber a little bit, but I don't think this will be necessary. With the underpainting, it has enough of a brownish undertone in order to be the best base color here, I believe. Once again, I'm slightly overpainting and going into the areas where her arm and her hair would be. I'm covering everything with a semi-transparent. On the other side, we will do the exact same thing. I will try to go into the blues already in order to establish some mixed space. Right. Which is not very precise right now, but we'll get there later on. We are at a very early stage in the painting, so of course everything appears a little bit transparent for now. And we still can see a lot of the underpainting, of course, peeking through, so this compromises the, well, not compromises really, but it adds to the overall impression of the hue of the colors that we are putting on top. Once again, I'm just covering the ground. Oh, I forgot a little bit of blue here in between. I will have to go back into it. Here's my blue, and once again I'm certainly overpainting within the area where her leg would already start to be, but we don't care because we don't want to fill out the spaces. Okay, let's overpaint her legs a little further as well. I'm not too sure about the outlines just yet, so we'll see it later on. Now let's go into our browns. We have two types of browns, those who are fairly orange tinted and those who are more neutral. I prefer to start with the orange tinted ones because it will be very impactful on the green, so will be a great guide for us as we go along. I will mix in Italian Earth and Mars Yellow, and yes, put it here. I believe we can even go further into the Mars Yellow and really lean into these orange hues. If you're wondering why the different types of paint look so different at the same stage of the painting, like for instance, you could see that the blue looked much more opaque than, for instance, the golden green. That is nearly completely transparent right now. And the same goes for Mars Yellow, which goes on quite opaque at this point of the painting. And I don't know whether you all knew, but of course every type of paint composed of different types of pigment, minerals, and different types of components going in, it affects the transparency of the color. So different colors will really not only appear more or less transparent, but they really are. They're more or less thick naturally, let's say, already coming out from the tube. Let's mix in green umber with burnt sienna because we need a dark green brown. Yes, not bad at all. And if we thin it out, just hint to the fact that there is a greenish shadow. You know what? I really don't like the hue of greenish umber by Sennelier. Before I had the Michael Harding one, and I much preferred it, because even if they have the same names throughout the different well, not paint producers, but let's say for the sake of it, they do not have the same undertone, even if they have the same name. And I feel like this is so, it has such a cool undertone that I really don't care for. What bothers me most of the time is that I was so used to the Michael Harding ones with the olive undertone that whenever I now think of would be logical to use it, and I obviously take the greenish umber by Sennelier now and apply it, I see that it doesn't give me the same undertone, so it doesn't apply. So all my reflexes are off, so I either have to relearn when to apply it, or I have to repurchase the Michael Harding one, whichever comes first. Also, I believe that the camera went out before showing you, or whilst I was in the process of applying these brighter green tones. So I will just repeat what I've said before, is that I mixed in yellow cinnabar green, permanent yellow green, and just a hint of golden green. And this is how we get this little amber here. I will continue with this color because we also have it a little bit under her arm here. I'm going into the orange toned one as well, so that we can start to have those mixed colors. Where do we have it? I believe that we have it on top of the mountain as well, like here, although this is nearly too green, should be more yellow than that. Well, this is not too bad now. We just have to keep in mind when going forward that we would need to put in more of the permanent yellow green when we get into those areas. Okay. You know what? I just go into some permanent yellow green and mix more of it a little bit here. And maybe here. And basically a lot of it here in the valley. Before everything becomes more orangey. But we still have a little bit of it here, and maybe here. Right, this is then again browner, with the exception of this little bit of the coast here that is still in the sunshine. We have a little bit of those very rich grassy greens here, the bottom of the valley, and I believe that this is, no, here as well, just a little bit. And I would actually, wait, I messed up, here, it was supposed to go here, never mind. And I will pick up a little more of the yellow cinnabar green, which is the bluish one, and I will put it here. This is maybe a little intense, but that's not an issue either, because this is just the first undertone, so first layer of color. So when we will go forward with this, we will go over this with a lot of different other colors, and we will be able to tone it down without any problems at all. So on the side, yes, we have a little here. A little here. 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 And here. Although we can go darker in the mountain here, so what we can do is maybe mix some of Tallow Armor Green, which is a fairly bluish green or emerald green, in with the indigo though. Put down here this one bit and this bit. Here, here. Right, and there is one bit here as well. And I do think we can leave it alone for now. Alright, can we repurpose this green for the bottom? Maybe just a little bit here. And on the outline. I feel like the bottom bit is a bit squashed. I have the feeling that I haven't left enough space for it to shine, and still when going over it I don't have the impression, I'm not under the impression that I messed up the proportions either, so I don't know. I guess it will become clearer when I get into the details. Now we have a last thing to do here at this stage, namely clean out our blue brush and go into some deep purples for the shadow in the cliffs. I am picking up ultramarine violet, and I will go into those shadows here in order to give them a purple violet tint. I do not want to leave them brownish as they are now. Once again, this color, as you can see, this ultramarine violet is pretty transparent, so we definitely did a good thing here by laying it down already, because we will need to have some time to lay it down and to let it shine and come through. I can even actually maybe tint it already and like glaze over the whole area with the violet. This is maybe not a bad idea to do at this stage. Okay, and here it is not violet, it is actually our middle green that we already used, and I've forgotten to put it down, so let's put down those blues. So in here is a blue one as well, and here we have a fair bit of it as well. A bit of a loch here, a bit blue in those cliffs here. And that's that for the landscape for today, I believe, because we will not be able to make much more progress than this for today. We have to leave the paint be, let it dry, in order to be able to layer on the colors. Now it is time to lay down a bit of color in our Pictish warrior figure. Initially I didn't want to, but upon reflection I think that we will have to, because if we want to have a chance to cover up the areas of the landscape that go into the space that is reserved for her body, then we need to start building up some color. So I think we will mostly lay down the highlights and the shadow areas, and to do that we'll have to pick out the right tones. I think what might be interesting for the deepest shadows would be either burnt sienna, burnt umber, or the sennelier brown. No, we will definitely go for the burnt umber, because the sennelier brown will be too, first of all, too dark, and then too purplish in undertone. So, starting with the shadows, as always, picking up some burnt sienna. Is it burnt sienna? No, burnt umber. Sorry, I don't know why I want to call it burnt sienna all the time. And we will start redrawing all the lines. I'm sorry I started with her legs, because I need to know whether I messed up the proportions here down with her feet, and whether this whole section is too short. But I just need to start her knee a bit higher than I thought I would, and this would allow me to fix matters, I believe, because this already looks better. All right, good. Now we have to make this outline disappear, but I really needed it to know where I'm going. So this is obviously where the relatively darkest shadow lie. She has some muscles, so there's some relief here. Now this is where the shadow would go. So basically this way and this way. Right now and me. And now maybe some of the highlight, which I will use warm grey for, maybe in combination with Italian earth, maybe, just maybe, because we have to warm it up ever so slightly. So let's see. Oh, maybe, yeah, that's right. Okay. It's here. Mixing in some middle tones, burnt umber with Italian earth, because these are like half shadows that are there, but not as intense. Here as well. Just trying to make it already look a little bit more 3D, you know, and sculpting her body. And maybe not quite as dark, but okay, we will clean this up and brighten it later on. This is not an issue per se. Just hinting at her hair. I feel like we can stay on the burnt umber to do so. Have to erase some of it. Something like that we'll have to do. And I believe that this is all we can do at this stage. Now we have to let it dry, and then we will go in with a new layer of color. Now, second session. As you can see, the paint is dry down, or is dry to the touch, so we can start building the color as we like. The light is a bit awful today. It is raining and it is apocalyptical, but I'm under the impression that my artificial light has managed to make it all right, look all right to the camera, so I'd suggest we dive into today's session. Also, due to the very strange, very unusual narrow format, I believe that you will be able to see more and better what I'm doing if I zoomed in, so I slightly changed the setup for today, and this will of course force me to work area by area and not like color by color. So I will start working on the sky first, so that you can see what I'm doing up here. Once I'm finished, I will change the setup and move gradually forwards as I'm working my way through the canvas. Now let's get started. Now we will start with a fairly neutral blue that has equally cold and warm undertones in it. So we will mix ocean blue together with cold grey, and I believe this is what allowed us to obtain this fairly neutral blue. It's not that bad. Let's see how far we will go with this one. And I believe that up from here, things are maybe starting to get a little bit warmer toned, but cooler toned, sorry. But I will continue so that we can lap over the colors. Now we will gradually mix in some colors with a slightly more greenish undertone, so maybe some turquoise gradually here. Maybe that was a little bit extreme, but hey. Let's roll with this. Now, as you can see, I'm painting over so that we get a better mixture here. And do we continue? Yes, continues here. Once again, we are way too dark for what we are looking for, but this is not a problem at all. We will be able to brighten everything up as we go, but we do need to have the shadows in the sky look as dark as we need them to go. At the same time, while I'm here, I will rework the mountain here as well. So we will intensify the color ever so slightly, because this is partly what makes up the character of this mountain as well in my eyes, is that I made it as vibrant. And this is also what, you know, distinguishes Renaissance art and paintings, especially the landscape part, is that they are really bluing in the background. And once again, I'm overlapping into the greens because I do want the blue to shine through. Okay, we have a little bit of the water here coming upwards, and here. Okay, now back to our skies. We need now something that is fairly more yellow. It does look green for now, but maybe once it is on the canvas it won't as much. This is the perfect shade. This is just the perfect shade. So once again, I have taken chrome cobalt bluish green, blue grey, fair amount of it, and just a touch of Indian yellow. And although I can assure you it looks very green on my palette, next to some other blues on the canvas, it doesn't look as green as much anymore. You see? And there we have to wash out the darker blue in order to have a more transparent sky, because I have the feeling like this is maybe nearly too opaque already, and I have sequenced the areas where the different colors are maybe too much and too early on, and I should have maybe mixed them together more. Right from the beginning, we will see how it will go. Looking better already. Right. So we want it to be more painterly and don't have as harsh borders between the different areas in the sky as we now have. So I will bring this color a little bit everywhere. For instance, here. Here. And once again we're feathering it out. Okay. We might maybe mix it even further here. Of course, as you can see, it is quite patchy and a little too transparent still, so this won't be our last layer. Working on the sky definitely won't be. Now I'm going back into the blue with a more reddish undertone, and we'll bring a little bit of the darkness back here. The goal here being make the sky look a little bit more complex and having more transitional colors in it to create more depth and, as I said, more interest, because it should not, if anything, appear flat and monodimensional. I know that there are clouds that are fairly brighter than this, but I'm not sure that I want to go into them as of right now and brighten it as much from the beginning. So I'm just letting this layer set, dry down, maybe bring another type of undertones and colors in our next session, and only then go in with the really bright colors in the clouds. Maybe we can touch up the water here, so I'm going to King's Blue Deep and bring back a little bit more color in here. I'm cleaning my brush and we'll fan it out a little more because it was quite a thick layer of paint that I brought in. This was not completely intentional. Maybe bring back just a little bit of green, just the slightest bit here. once again, this creates a little bit more dimension in the water, as you can see. Going into some deep purple, in order to once again redraw the border that I've drawn over. There you go. As long as I'm on the blues, let's get down to the water part here. We go into King's Blue Deep and mark the brightest part here. Once again, it is very luminous, it is very bright in color, very intense and saturated, so we need to insist on the King's Blue Deep here. Now we are feathering it out into the darker area. Don't forget that little bit where her legs are crossing, and just a smidgen here, but not, I don't want to bring it too far to the left because this needs to stay in the shadows. We are now going into cobalt blue hue and intensifying the blues here in the shadows just a little bit as well. Right, there you go, better. We leave the transition greyish. I will go with another colour over. Afterwards, do we have this type of blue anywhere else? Maybe here just a little bit in the transitional area, but not that much. So we need to feather it out more. We do have it right here on the coast in a very muted way, in that it is mixed in with the King's Blue here. And we are good to go. Now we need to go into the darkest blues, which are the ultramarine, I believe, mixed in with some greenish undertone. So I might have added just a hint of phthalo armor green. Let's see whether this will work out. It's not bad at all. Yeah, it's not bad. It's especially visible here, actually, in this part where it becomes a little more transparent and mixed in with the cliffs, because everything is so much in the shadows that you can't even distinguish where one starts and where the other begins. Where one starts and the other ends. Never mind, you got my meaning, I believe. Right. See how I didn't apply the paint very smoothly everywhere? There are areas where I laid it on more thick and other areas where it went on more transparently, in order to create, once again, this impression of depth. And try to not be too repetitive in your brush strokes. We can use the same color because I have very few amount left on it on the brush, in order to create a transition here. This way we create a nice harmony and unity throughout the painting, using the same hues and colors a little bit everywhere. It brings everything together. And this corner here, I believe, is a bit more of a classic ultramarine. So this is what we're going into. It has a slightly purplish undertone. Once again, we don't want the transition to be too stark, so we need to smooth everything out, bring it down a bit to not have a real line here, avoid having a real line. And now we are going in with this ultramarine somewhere in the shadows to make them look a little bit more blue and not green. There you go. And here, closer to the rock as well. This is the color that we get. And finally, here in the corner as well. This is what we have. We might go in at the coast as well. And I wouldn't do much more than that at this point in the water. Now let's start at the top once again, this time with the greens. As in the previous layer, I will start with the color that is kind of underlying to the whole of the landscape, that is to say the most neutral maybe. Let's start with brown ochre. Yes. Our goal here is to apply a thicker layer of paint in order to create a base. Which medium here? There you go, better. Once again, I will reintroduce some different colors and undertones later on. I will just recreate a base for me, a humid base of paint to paint on, so that the colors will be a bit grippy and unify the whole, because as you might have remembered from the last session, we had areas of different colors and I want to reunite them a little more, and I will do it throughout each layer, I believe. This is how I like to work for this type of landscape, where we have different types of undertones melting together really nicely. And this doesn't mean that they can't be bright. It just means that they really have to melt seamlessly with each other. This is how I like them to work. This is nearly glazing here, what I'm doing. I will stay in the upper half of the painting. I will have to concentrate on what's happening on the left side now. Picking up the exact same color and going over it, glazing over the wall. Do slightly more here. Going into the blues just a little bit to tie it all together. And that's it for the upper half on this color. Now we can start working on the different undertones. So we will pick up something a bit brighter and a bit more green, so permanent yellow green, that we will mix in with golden green, and this will be our highlight here. are sculpting a landscape through this play between shadows and highlights. Might have been a bit too bold here, but we'll be able to correct it. Okay, do we have this luminous part here on the left side? Yes, we do, a little bit here. And here maybe as well. And mostly in a highlight, in a type of highlight here. And this is important to blend it together with the blue because it is not a harsh and very defined highlight. It is fairly mixed together. So I'm going back into my blue brush and try to smooth things out, maybe a bit. Into the blues. Okay. Maybe even something like that, completely blended in. Or we have something, other highlight here and there. What will we continue with? We might continue now with some burnt umber mixed in with the green umber or greenish umber to go into some darker shadows. Once again, it's not a problem if it's a bit dark, we will feather it out. But I would like to have some shadows here at this point, here as well, where the mountain shadow comes down ever so slightly, undeniably here. Can you still see what I'm doing? Yes. Maybe let's bring in some gold green in it, into our mixture for this part here. Okay, do we have it on the left hand? Yes, we do. We do have it here. As you can see, these three colors mixed together give something that is fairly transparent. So here we will have to rework on this area, probably much more in the future, in order to help get it a little bit of body. Okay, now going into those oranges, Tuscan Earth and Mars Yellow. Bring back those lovely orange hues. I'm glazing over here more than anything else in order to have something that unifies the landscape, the shadows and the orange highlights, rather than accentuating the highlights. Here we have to accentuate because it is rather something very obvious here in the landscape. And I'm constantly switching from the flat side of the brush to the oblique side in order to vary this degree of opacity, you know. So when I'm going in oblique like that, I'm glazing more than anything else, and when I'm applying it flat like this, I'm applying a more opaque layer. Okay. We also have it up top here. Here we have to stay fairly translucent. So although I am on the flat side of the brush, there's not much paint left, so I'm really dragging all the rest of paint over the canvas. That is why it is still not appearing very, very opaque. Here we have a more opaque version of this color. Okay, now over to the other side. We have a bit of it here. A bit here, but rather very transitional. All in semi-transparency and very, very subtly. Right, and I believe this is it for the oranges. Now we'll go back into some brown ochre in order to help transitions along. For instance, here and here. Here. And here. especially in this darker area. You need to appear a bit more smooth than that. Now we are going into some bluish green, so I believe what we used last time was yellow cinnabar green. For instance, I see some blue here. Here. Also here. Here, here. That was a little too much. I will feather it out. Go back into permanent yellow green in order to correct some mistakes that I did here. And re-brighten this ever so slightly, and here as well. See, the clue here is really make everything melt together. I don't like how transparent this still is here. It feels disproportionate to where we are at in the other parts of the painting, but I don't think I can do much about it right now. Okay, I believe that we are now done with the upper part of the painting. Now we can maybe redarken this area here, go into some indigo mixed in with our greens that we used for the water down there, and we will go into the mountain ridge here and there, where the shadows are the most deep. I will just mush everything together a little and then correct the colour. Right, okay. What we can do now is to go back into our ocean blue that we are picking up really in a very slight manner, okay? And then we bring back those bluish, really bluish undertones. We can pick even a little bit more. Right, like that. Ever so slightly, and I believe that's not bad. Right, okay. Now some King's Blue Deep mixed in with cool grey. Go in here and do the transition. And go into the highlights and those shadows that are much more purple in the undertone. Okay, moving down now. Now we basically just need to do the exact same thing that we did on the top here at the bottom. So golden green and brown ochre mixed together to smooth everything out in this area as well. I'm glazing, going even further down into the cliffs. Right, here we go, glazing over in order to bring everything back together, have some unity. Once again, bringing it down into the cliffs until the bottom, and we will do the exact same thing on the left side. So here we go. If you're wondering why I'm not switching over to a bigger flat brush here to cover more area in one go, and the answer would be because I like how irregular this looks, and the fact that we have some smaller and therefore more irregular brush strokes that still can be visible. Further we go with the colors, I really do like that. Not having something too uniform makes the areas where the colors mix together become a bit more random and thus more natural. This is the effect that I'm going for, so I have to do the exact same thing here. We are still in the early stages of this painting, right? So it's normal that everything still looks quite clunky and has a very studyish feeling to it. At this point we're maybe in total 2 hours into, no, maybe more, so that's normal. Okay, we're done with the glazing and unifying of this whole area. I will redo the exact same thing that we did on the top, so picking up golden green, mixing it a bit together with permanent yellow green in order to create some highlights that are here and here. This is like a valley here. This is how I envision it at any rate, so we have nearly a spirally way that the color is going down here. Maybe here. This might be it, because I believe that here we rather have yellow, Indian yellow highlights rather than permanent yellow green. They are much warmer. Might not even be warm enough. Still too greenish in the undertone, but let's stick with it and we will go back with the orange afterwards. So I believe this will be okay once we get there. Now we will need to mix it right away with the Mars yellow, because we need a much warmer yellow here. Yes, this is much better. Now only Mars yellow. For the really orangey parts here. We have to work in the Indian yellow and the Mars yellow onto the left side as well, so bringing in those warm highlights once again here and here. In a spirally kind of way in the valley here. Now we can maybe accentuate the orange browns with some French red vermilion hue. And we can go into here. Let's pick up some bright orange as well. We have quite a lot of different types of oranges. On the bottom I feel like they are maybe more diversified than what we had in the upper part of the painting. Here we are going back into the vermilion red here. We should really mix it maybe a bit more with burnt umber. I believe that this is something that could work well here in the bottom of the painting, and I feel like it does. It does deliver. And this helps us sculpt the landscape even further. Let's dive into those browns here at the bottom of the painting. I have some deep browns here as well. Some cliffs here. And a semi-transparent layer here. What else have we got? We can glaze over with the burnt umber here, because I feel like the whole area is slightly darker than what it appears to be right this minute. I would like to darken it down so slightly. Right, this looks better. Okay, and same goes for here. Alright, now we will jump back into our greens. I believe that we have some more of this bluish undertone that we will maybe mix in with the green umber, a bit more of burnt umber as well, brownish green with bluish undertone, and we can darken down here some parts that need to go a bit darker, especially where the warrior is standing. So maybe here, right. And also here a little bit. We're not quite there yet with the color here on the bottom. Let's pick up a little bit more of the yellow cinnabar green and go here into the corner. This is a fairly bright part that we have here. And I believe that it also continues down here in the valley behind her. Something like that. We mix in a little bit of permanent yellow green in order to get some more yellowish undertones. And we are back on schedule with that. I feel like I salvaged this sufficiently. We'll jump back into the browns and the oranges mixed together. I'd like to bring this back into the foreground a bit more. And I also feel like we need to go into the Mars yellow and yeah, bring those orange undertones up a notch. They are too subdued here for the moment, and the greens are overpowering the bottom half of the painting for now. This is not what I want. I believe that that is as far as we can go this time. And this is the result for today. I hope you found it interesting how I work my way through this painting, how I mix the colors, and what different brush techniques I use to get where I'm going. Thank you so much for joining me for this longer painting session today. I hope you enjoyed it, and of course I hope to see you all back for my next video very soon. Until then, as always, I wish you a delightful morning, afternoon or evening, wherever you are. Cheers guys!